So for today's case study, I thought it would be best for me to share my screen and go over each problem individually. Um, so yeah, we can start off with the first problem where we're calculating the future value of, say, a savings account. The formula is quite simple. You're just entering the right details in the right places. But to understand it, we can look at this as a savings account where you put in $1,000 at the start. Over 4 periods of time, you're going to earn 9% at the end of each period. And the payments per period is, because this number is positive, the formula actually reads it as you're taking out $2 per period. So if this was negative, we could understand it as putting in $2 per period. And then the type 0 just means that you're making payments at the end of the period. So we can go ahead and do this manually just to check our answer, to make sure we've got the right answer. So we're starting off with $1,000, and from there, firstly, we're getting the interest from the $1,000. So we can use that. And then we're using the 9% interest on that. Just lock it. And then after we earn the interest, we're taking out this $2 over here. So we can just take that out. And then we should see that if you do this over 4 years, it should give us the same answer, 1,402.44 rounded to 2 decimal places. Yeah, and that essentially shows you how your money is growing, even though you're taking out $2 at the end of each period. So we can go ahead and look at the second question where it's asking for the present value. It's very similar to the first question, with a slightly more weird interpretation, is at least what I think. So what you're given, or what you know, is that you will eventually owe $1,000 at the end of 4 periods after being charged 9% interest rate and taking out $2 every period. And you're trying to figure out how much money you get today. And to do that, you use the present value formula. You just enter in the data. And to check this, we can actually use the future value formula. Just enter in the right details, number of periods, payments. And then for your present value, we can enter the answer we got, and we should get $1,000 due in the future. And we can also see the manual method. We did the same thing with the previous problem. Is we start off with $701, and then you go on, you add the interest rate, and then you owe $2 more from taking it out at the end of each payment. By the end of the fourth period, you'll be owing $1,000. So now if we move on to the third question, we can see that it's asking for net present value. And net present value is essentially assessing what your future cash flow would be if you discount it at the discount rate of your next best opportunity. So for example, $500 4 years from now is not worth $500 today, because if you had that $500, you could invest it in maybe something else that had a higher return, and it would be worth more in the future. So we have to discount it to see how much it's worth today. So the formula for this is your MPV, and you enter in your future cash flows. You enter in your discount rate first, and then your future cash flows. And because you're looking for the net present value, you have to balance that with your initial investment, which is say $2,000. You just add that back in to get your net present value of $88.85. If you wanted to do this manually, we could actually look at each year how much your cash flow is worth in terms of present value. We can say cash flow is equal to that. And then your rate of return is 6% for each year. So what we can see, to discount each year by the discount rate, we do the opposite of what you would do if you were earning interest rate. So do 600 over 1 plus your discount rate. And then you're doing that to the power of how many years it's away. So for the first year, it's only 1 year, but then that'll increase as we go down to 4 years, which will discount it at a bigger rate. And now if we add these up, you can see that we have $2,088, and that is equal to your net present value of $88.85. So if we move on to the internal rate of return, which is very similar to a net present value question, we can see the internal rate of return is essentially what your discount rate would be if your net present value was equal to 0. So the formula essentially takes in your different cash flows, including the initial cash flow that you put in, and it'll make your net present value equal to 0 and give you a discount rate of what the internal rate of return would be if net present value was 0, which is 8%. And you can check this using your net present value formula, where your rate will be 8%. And then if you use your other values that you got, it should be equal to your starting sum, which is negative $2,000, and balances out. And therefore, your net present value is equal to 0. So if we go on to the periodical payment question, we can, first we have to understand what it's asking. And what it is asking is what you will be paying at the end of each period so that you've completely paid off this $1,500 loan. And to do this, we essentially just use the PMT formula where you enter the data and you get the value of each month. But to check it manually, we can do the same thing as what we did in the first question, where we have 3 periods, and you start off with $1,500, and then this will grow by the 11% each at the end of each period. So we're timing it by 1. And now we're trying to find out how much we have to pay at the end of each period, so that eventually this you won't have anything left to pay. And because this formula is giving us $613, we can use that to check our work by just entering it, and because it's minus, we add it on. And then if you carry this down, hopefully it should be $0 due at the end of the 3rd period, which means that this is exactly how much you need to be paying at the end of each period. And finally, if we look at the interest rate question, we can see that this question is essentially asking how much would the interest rate be if you have an $8,000 loan and you're willing to pay back $200 per month. How long, what the interest rate would be. And this is $200 per month because you can't physically pay back an $8,000 loan by paying $200 a year over 4 years. That would be impossible. You pay $800 at the end of the 4 years. So if we use the interest rate formula, where essentially the only difference that we're making is that we're timesing the number of years by 12 to simulate 48 months. And then from there, the formula will give you the number of 0.77%. And if we times that by 12, we can get the annual interest rate of around 9.24%. And to check this, we can do the same thing as what we did for the first couple questions, where we have a lot more months. But we will be starting with $8,000. And then if you use a monthly interest rate, are equal to 1 plus your monthly interest rate given to us by that, we'll get your multiplier, which is what you'll be using to times this by. And then from there, we're making $200 payments each period. So this would be equal to this. And then because it's already negative over there, we can just add it in over here to get your first period, how much you pay, after how much you paid back, and the interest, that's how much you still have. And then we can continue doing this for the remainder of the years, which is, or remainder of the months, which is 48 months. If we go down, there you are, $200 in the 47th month, and then you pay the $200 remaining, and you'll finish with $0 and your loan essentially paid off. So yeah.